Hey, this is Eddie Olczyk. You're listening to Empty Betters with Nick, Mac, and Harrison.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to episode 123 of Empty Betters. I'm your host, Harrison Scholes, and I'm going to toss it across the screen to my co-host, Nick Manella. What is going on, buddy?
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Wow.
Gentlemen, I am happy to be back. We have playoff hockey tonight, which means I have a hefty beer going today.
Cartoon beer, love it.
Cartoonishly large, I would say. Yes,
Yep.
that's accurate. Yeah, it's we're recording this on Monday, May 2nd. This is day one of the Stanley Cup Playoffs. We got schedules all over the place, so this will go up when you're listening to this on Tuesday, May 3rd. We got the traveling mogul, Mac Vogel, out in Los Angeles. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, everybody? Just a little there we go.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, back in LA where it all started for me. Feels pretty good to be back doing a Empty Betters recording out west. So also just got chills when you said today is the first day of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Feels good to be back in that regard too. So
it's phenomenal. How's the weather out in LA?
it's beautiful. This is our last day here actually, but we've been blessed with pretty much high 70s, low 60s like the entire time we've been here. Yeah, it's been really nice. We had one beach day, went to Hermosa Beach. It was a little hotter that day. Got sunburned literally just on my hand. That's it.
Huh. Interesting. Never heard that one before. I'll give you that.
PSA, don't forget to put sunscreen on your hands, everybody.
Mr. Nicholas, I saw you were at the Dover NASCAR race yesterday. How much fun did you have? Or the race that didn't happen?
Yeah, the race that we got it like 78 out of the 400 laps in, and then it decided to rain. But it was a great tailgate. Was hanging out with the owners and Noah, the bartender from Don't Know Tavern. So it was great of them to come out. They brought some amazing food as well. Got to hang out with Travis Pastrana in the parking lot as well. Drink a couple of beers with him. So that was awesome. And yeah, we just had like a great group and good food, good beer. Can't complain.
Hey, man, it looked like a good time. So we're not going to beat around the bush. We got a jam-packed episode today. We got our playoff previews, and we are also having a big interview today. We were joined last week by Mr. Ice himself, a.k.a. Elio on Twitter. Probably, I would say, the most famous hockey sharp on Twitter for his reactions and his emotion. He's a very entertaining guy. If you don't follow him already, go give him a follow. We appreciate his time joining us last week. So we're going to do this a little differently this episode. We're going to do the interview first, and then right after that, no nonsense, just get right to the series previews and we'll knock them out. So before we get to the interview, we want to let you know that this interview is brought to you by Brackish Life. If you're like us and grew up on the water and outdoors, then Brackish Life is perfect for you. They have a wide selection of gear from UV shirts to hoodies and hats. It's Real Bay apparel made by Real Bay people. Head to www.brackish.life today to check them out. A little salty, a little fresh Brackish Life. Brackish Life has also teamed up with Rink to Reef Chesapeake Bay to preserve the area many of us call home. Rink to Reef repurposes broken hockey sticks into oyster restoration habitats. Brackish Life donates a portion of their proceeds to Rink to Reef to further preserve the beautiful Chesapeake Bay area. Support this great cause by checking out www.brackish.life today. Without further ado, we're going to toss it off to Mr. Ice right now. And it is now my pleasure to introduce to the Empty Betters podcast, Mr. Ice, a.k.a. Elio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. So we interviewed your buddy Turk a little while back.
Yeah, he told me. I know. I watched most of it. It was you guys. Listen, you guys do a great job. I like you guys. You do enough of the gambling for me, and you also do some of the the regular hockey stuff, which I like too. So you guys do a really good job.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
We appreciate that. So he mentioned in that interview, and I'm curious, how this all came to be. He said growing up you were a pretty good athlete, but you never played hockey, but yet you're like a mogul on hockey Twitter. So how's that all work?
Well, I mean, I'm sure you guys are gamblers as well. So you guys partake in all types of gambling, from horse racing to baseball, football, hockey. So I just found a niche where I think I ran out of things I stunk at. And then I sort of got into hockey, and I've had a pretty good run for about 5 or 6 years. So I've been I hate to call it a system because that's pretty lame, but I've won 5 years in a row. So I'm sticking to what's got me here.
Hey, if it ain't broke, right?
That's right. I mean, I gamble football, I gamble basketball, not as much basketball anymore, but football and baseball, and and I have the regular swings most gamblers have, the up and down. I'll eventually end up losing. But hockey, I've had a good run, and so that's where Mr. Ice came about.
Yeah. I mean, so when you say you have a system, I mean, it's pretty obvious you love the overs, especially this season. Can't blame you. Is that like part of the system?
So what I do is I'm not really a stat guy. I do use like 3 or 4 stats that I base my picks off. So I can't say I'm not completely without stats, but what I do is I watch almost every game, and I look, I pay attention to the goalies. But again, I as this year went along, I sort of, it changes year to year and month to month and week to week, because the system that you use doesn't always work all the time. And, but I sort of have a basis of what I try to do. But my biggest handicapping tool is I watch. I use my eyes and I watch the games. That's 90% of how I build my games. And I use over, because the public loves it. You don't want to bet unders. You're not going to have a big fan crew when you're betting unders. It's just not going to happen. Right. So, I mean, I know people like winners. So if you pick unders and I don't pick unders as good as I do overs. So that's pretty much my system. It's not like a crazy thing. I use a few stats just to get a baseline, but other than that, it's just watching.
That's nice. Funny you say that. And I think it's great that you say that you do pay attention to the goalies, because when we talked with your buddy Turk, he was like, I'm not a goalie guy at all. And that's something that we're on this podcast, we're huge about. That's a big deal for us.
Yeah, I think goalies in years past made a difference. This year, I just don't think it made a big difference. You had Vasilevsky in Tampa. I mean, how many games have gone over with him?
He let in 4 last night.
Yeah, I mean, how many games would you just thinking just about the last couple of years? I don't have the stats in front of me, but I just feel like if you bet a Tampa game and he was playing, I'm like, I wouldn't even touch the over. Where this year, the goalies almost didn't matter. This year, Maybe this year was a little underlying because there were so many goals. And I think it's going to continue. I think the goals are going to continue. Now Vegas is caught up though. That's the problem. The 6.5, you're getting 6.5s on every game. I mean, that's crazy. It's crazy. So we're gonna have to figure out something next year.
Well, we were the 2 idiots who ended up betting that Toronto, Florida.
I saw you guys did that. I didn't hate it. I did not hate it. I mean, with those 2 teams, I'll say this though, and I don't have my record in front of me, but I don't really keep like really close records, but my numbers on totals with 6.5 are so good. With 7, it's the only number I'm below 500 on.
Interesting.
And I'm telling you, and I've probably bet like 20 of them this year, and I've had more pushes. You know what my best number is? 6.5. I have basically, and that number always used to scare me so much, because I was like, so many games land on 6, 4-2, or, you 3-2 empty net, I've only been burned a few times on 6. My 6.5 numbers. Now, when I've lost, it's just been like 3-1 or 4-1 or something. But my highest win percentage is at 6.5, which in the beginning of the year when they were coming out with all the 6.5. I was like, oh, I'm gonna get screwed by 6. But it was, like I said, I'm not scared of 6.5 anymore. Probably next year, but not right now. There's only 3 or 4 days left.
Just
And
about.
you guys have the worst matchup ever. You guys are Blues fans?
This is Caps and Penguins.
Yeah.
Oh, Caps and Penguins. I thought you guys, for some reason, I keep seeing Blues stuff on your site.
We like betting the Blues.
Yeah.
We like betting the
Oh,
Blues.
you're betting the Blues. Okay, so you guys are Caps. And I was going to say, because that Minnesota-St. Louis matchup.
Oh my
my God. Best
How do
series
you-
round 1.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. I can't even believe, and Minnesota. So I picked Florida and Minnesota. I bet those 2 teams in the beginning of the year to win the cup. But honestly, I don't even know. I would probably, do you think St. Louis is going to be favored? I don't know.
We talked
I don't
about that a
think
little
so.
bit. Like we were saying that could go 7 and that 7 will go to overtime and that's still
Yeah.
a coin flip.
Don't know. I say advantage Minnesota with goalies.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I think St. Louis, they're so good. They're deep too, and
Deep down the middle.
Yeah, deep down the middle, and their defensemen are huge.
Yeah,
like
Parayko and all them.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I probably root Minnesota. But if I had a gun to my head, I might say St. Louis.
It's a coin flip for sure. That'll be the best series in round 1, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I do have to ask. So,
Yep.
You've blown up, and your celebrations are just unmatched. So the other night you had a football helmet where you ripped off the face mask. Do you plan these? Like, how does that go?
No, I don't. Sometimes what I do is, if it gets to like 6 and I feel like I'm gonna win, then I'm like, all right, I gotta figure out what prop I'm gonna use, because
which one of my kids' toys can I break? Which one's making too much noise?
The super, how it is with gambling. Super, if I plan something out, it's definitely losing. So I can not, like, no, I don't plan it out until it gets to where, and then I'm still thinking, oh, I fucked myself because I'm thinking I'm gonna win, but no, they're not planned out.
So going into playoffs, what do you think about overs? I know you said you're still going to be touching them, but
yeah, no, I don't play. So that over game is gone. Yeah, that over game is gone in the playoffs. I mean, I'm not saying I won't bet a couple, but yeah, I'll be heavily just betting teams for the series. Not as much individual games, some, but series bets. Yeah.
Is that something where you wait until like game 3 to see like what the lay of the land is going to be like, if someone jumps out 2-0 or maybe like a 1-1 split, or even like the favored team drops the first one at home or something?
Yeah, I mean, now with the live betting, it's totally changed, everything. I'm still sort of an old school type of guy. I kind of want to I try to figure out before the series.
Mm-hmm.
But again, you can try to hedge out if you go wrong or whatever. So I usually bet them before.
Okay.
And sometimes I'm dead wrong.
Oh, well, that's just part of the game. That's
part of the game. Yeah. And I got an underdog in the West that I'm hoping that they match up, because I think, and I'll just say this, I think Calgary can be beat. So
I do too.
Okay.
I agree with you on that.
And a lot of people are picking them Cup, and you listen, they got a really good goalie, a monster goalie. And they're built the right way. The coach is obviously really good, and they're well structured. But I think and it's one of those teams I feel like will win in the regular season, but the playoffs, I don't know if they're. I mean, remember what they were? They didn't make the playoffs last year, right? Because I don't think they did. So I think they made a huge step with the coach, and of course they've got a bunch of good players. But I just think they're. I would take maybe even Dallas, St. Louis, or Minnesota over them. I still think, and I think you'll get a good. It depends what the number is too. We'll see about that.
So I've been going back and forth on Twitter, seeing. I know you're good friends with Portnoy. Obviously,
yep.
He's been giving you shit about your picks not hitting. Is this just like? Is he just throwing that out there to kind of mess with you, or is he actually serious?
Oh, he does that. Yeah, he does. I mean, so he threw out first of all, he was so stupid that he threw out a quote last night. He's like, I didn't know if he was serious because he thought I bet the Tampa game. I called him. I gave him the game, and then midway through, he's like, "Oh, you stopped calling the goal calls," and I thought he was effing with me just because there was no goals. But he was thinking I bet Tampa, which was over in the second. So that's the way he is. He messes up the bet that I gave him, and it gives me. We've been doing this since we were kids, so I don't. It doesn't fluster me at all. I'll just come back over the top. I see him next week, and but I will say this: sometimes when he tails me, I haven't done too well. So I blame it on him. I was like, listen, I went 17-3, and then you jumped on, and I lost like 4 in a row. So who's the problem?
That's great.
Yeah. So that's our shtick. But I'm going to Vegas next week.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So we're going out for the Derby. We usually go to the Derby because I'm a big horse guy. That might be my number one thing. But he has to do something he's actually commentating, Canelo the boxer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So what I think they're doing is, like on the pay-per-view, I think you're able to say, do you want like the Barstool crew broadcast or the regular crew? They're doing that with different sports. So I'm going out there. What is it, next week to do that? So I'm not on the broadcast, but I'm sort of behind the scenes.
What could possibly go wrong on that?
Right.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Somehow Canelo's going to lose. So
there you go. Maybe a trip over to the Westgate.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Without a doubt.
So before we let you go, got to give you a shout out for your restaurant. We have a couple Boston listeners. I'm sure they already know about it, but you want to talk about Tony's Place?
Yeah. So I my dad started in 1969.
Nice.
And so I've been doing it since I graduated in 2001. Family restaurant in West Roxbury, which is like south of Boston. It's like family style restaurant. We have a restaurant bar, holds about 100, and then we also have a takeout, like different buildings sort of connected, but 2 different places. And I've been doing that for 20 years. I love it. I enjoy that. But I also enjoy gambling too. So it's not bad having a buddy who owns.
There you go. What's your best dish?
I would say pizza, just because I love pizza and we do it every day. So we make our own dough every day. We grind our own cheese every day. We make our own sauce. So it is something that's really like authentic, and it's, that's how you have to do pizza. Is it the best pizza in the world? No, but it's really good. And pizza is like something I feel like people can eat like 5 days a week. So I certainly can. 6'3", 260. So I can do it.
There you go.
But no, pizza, we sell a ton of pizza. Like chicken parm is a huge dish. We sell 1 million a day. So we're right across from a VA hospital. And we're right across from a big high school. It's a private Catholic high school. So we're in a good spot. Like I said, my dad opened in 1969, and so we've been around for a while.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's cool.
Nick and I, well, Nick's a thoroughbred Italian. I'm not, but we were taking bets on how you pronounce your last name before the show started. Would you mind sharing?
Imbernoni.
He was right. Nick was right. Yeah.
I'm born one. That's it.
There you go. That's a good one.
How many times have you gotten that? I'm not even
Yeah,
joking.
usually they don't try it. Like growing up, Elio was, Elio or whatever. My last name is because there was no other Elio, so it didn't make a difference what my last name was.
Right. Yeah.
Question for you guys. So when did you guys start this?
Back in 2019, I think like right after Labor Day of 2019, just the two of us in my old apartment in Towson, right outside of Baltimore, just a USB microphone and a laptop.
Nice. And tell me what are you guys looking to do? What are you guys looking for to grow, get bigger, but like what like format are you guys trying to get into?
That's a great question. I think for us, it's really, we love the podcast, but any platform where we could, talk hockey and gambling, and those two specifically is just a dream come true.
Yeah. I mean, my like, I've been asked to do some podcast stuff, and for me, I don't see. I'm not. I don't think I would want to get into it. But I do think that, and I love listening to some. For me, it's just not my thing.
Right.
But I totally like Spit and Chicklets. I listen to them. You know, I just think, I mean, I always find it now, people are so rushed. It's like they don't even have a time to sit down for a 20-minute podcast. It's like, I feel like everything's like, it's almost, it fits in the Twitter form, which is 2 minutes. You know,
seriously.
It's so, I don't know. I don't know which ways to go, because for me, I am more of like the gambling content. I love the gambling content. I love how to, it's like a puzzle to me, like to figure it out. And that's why horse racing for me is such a passion, because I get to watch video replays of the horse. I mean, it doesn't always work out, but the process is better than the result for me. I like to put the work in to try to get the results. Of course, you need to have good results.
True.
But that is like, that's what I love about like gambling. I mean, of course, the highs of gambling. Like when I was younger, you know, I bet in 20 games a day. You know, it's just I did it all. And you know, and Dave was the wild man too. He did it all. But for me now, I don't know. I really love like putting in the work to try to get and people call me out and say, oh, you over, you know, it's true. I've just been betting overs, but there is a process. I mean, it's not like it's a 6-hour process, but there's something to it. And again, you know, as you get old, I like to put in the time like that. And you know, when you get results, it's obviously better because people see it and, you know, and enjoy it and they make a little money.
Yeah. Money's always nice.
Money's nice. Yeah.
I mean, that was really like, you know, how we started. We saw sports gambling was getting big. And we're obviously
started yet. That's the thing. You guys get into it because it hasn't even broke in yet.
Exactly.
It's not even close. So
for us down here, it's not even like technically legal yet. Which we know they're dragging their feet. But
it's so slow. I can't believe
they're arguing about how to tax it, and they're waiting for football season.
It's true.
I'll tell you this: Massachusetts, mark my words, will be the last. We're last in everything. So
yeah,
I think Maryland might give you a run for your money, but but no, I mean, you go. I'm sorry.
So it's just like when I go with Barstool to different states and stuff. Like I'm in New Jersey and when I'm in Chicago, Illinois, it's just so nice because you can do it right on your phone.
It's amazing.
It's just, I mean, like, because sometimes you watch a game and you're like, listen, this game's like, they're going to come back, or at least, you know, and just they throw $100 and say, oh, I was right. You were right that they can, and just being able to do everything from your phone. Why can't we do that now? Like that is so stupid. It's you know what? It's probably going to be another 5 years until everything's. I thought it was going to be quicker, but I think COVID really slowed everything down. I mean, it definitely did, but still, like this last 6 months, like we're in Barstool, we've only gone into 13 states so far. Like I thought we would have been into like 25 by now.
Right.
So, and I don't even know. I haven't even asked which is the next one, but I'm just surprised that we're not in more. But
yeah, it's annoying here because like Harrison's in Baltimore now. He could walk 15 minutes to the casino and put a bet down, but he couldn't do it from his phone. It's just,
I know. So dumb. It is. It's just, I think, like I said, 5 years we won't have to have this conversation, but for the next 5 years, so we're going to be still twiddling our thumbs, betting through third parties, basically.
Yeah,
but
well said.
But going back to your original point, like, you know, talking about how people don't have like attention spans to do stuff, it's crazy, right? Especially with like TikTok and stuff. Like if you don't have someone for 10 seconds, it's swipe. It's
over.
just crazy. It's so wild.
See, that's why, like I said, and I'm not saying it for you guys, but for me, I think I can keep somebody's attention for maybe like 2 or 3 minutes with some good info. And because me personally, I am more just a gambler betting, Tampa plays Ottawa tonight. I can give you, whatever my information is, that's what I'm good at. And, some people can do a 25-minute, like you guys can do a 25-minute podcast that's interesting. I just personally am not good enough to do that. So, and I personally think it's going that way, like the real short 2 to 3 minute, say what you got to say. And it's like, where podcasts maybe a year ago we're like everybody was doing, So, but if you guys continue to do a good one, I still think good ones can last. And, it's just like everybody will, you'll get rid of the ones that sort of suck and only the good ones will last.
I think for us, it's just also cheaper than going to a shrink too.
That's what you don't know. And you get to talk with your good buddies. There's nothing wrong about sports and gambling. Now, listen, that's what I've been doing for like 3 years. I've been talking to my phone, basically talking to my phone for 3 years. How to bet. Yeah. And finally, Dave hired me. It took him like 25 years to hire me. So
your best friend. How'd that work?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I've been thinking about it a lot because, like you think your best friend will just give you this job, and because I started with them in the beginning, but it actually worked out because I had to work. I basically worked for 2 years and I didn't eat for nothing. And now that I got, it made me like, he could have given me a job right away, and I could have got in and probably could have made it somehow, but you know what? I built it up myself. So I'm so much happier this way because if Dave says in 2 years, I'm not going to renew you. I have my own people. Granted, a lot has to do with Barstool. I'm not saying that Barstool, I had 50 legs up than anybody else did because number one, my best friend was the owner of Barstool. So I know that. I'm not, and I also know that, I had a lot of the, Barstool people just follow me just because. But, I did it, like I said, I did it for years. I mean, I did it for a while, but so you know what? And now I'm actually happy that it went this way because now I feel like, I put in my time and, hopefully I can only go up from here.
Yeah. I would say that's probably a safe assumption, but
definitely.
Last thing. All right. We're going to put you on the hot seat. Cup final and cup winner. Who you got?
So, cause I'll just go Florida, Minnesota.
Wow.
Florida, yeah. Florida scares me because usually teams, but I don't know on Rangers. Carolina is too crazy right now. Mm-hmm. In the East, Pittsburgh, no. Boston, no. Who is number? No.
Nope.
Yeah, that's it. So it's Toronto. Oh, Tampa. So yeah. So I say Florida or Tampa out of the East. Those are my two teams, and then but it all depends on matchups too. Because what if they end up playing right away? But so Florida and Tampa in the East, and then in the West, how can I say the winner of Minnesota, St. Louis, and Colorado? But I'm playing against Colorado, so
gotcha.
Yeah. All right,
that's good. That's it. It's a little wishy-washy, but
we'll hold you that. We'll hold you to that one. So yeah.
Colorado. If Colorado wins,
they won't.
I don't know about them. I'm McKinnon. I'm just not I'm not the biggest McKinnon fan. I think I don't know. So I'm gonna play against Colorado. Although I like the goalie, I like the kid from Arizona that came over. I think he's as good or better than the other guy. And obviously Maker is ridiculous.
Yeah,
but I think the grit factor. That's why St. Louis, Minnesota.
Those are heavy teams.
Those are heavy teams, and if Colorado has a first series where they have to play somebody, you don't know. We thought it was going to be Vegas, but now it's probably going to be Dallas, maybe. I don't know. I'm going to play against Colorado.
Yeah, I like that tactic.
And the value will be in your favor too if you do that.
Yeah, the value. What do you guys? Do you guys have us?
Oh, geez, I put a couple units on mini at the deadline when they got Fleury. I was like, because the value was just there, it was worth it. Yeah. I was like,
what was the number you got? Because I got 24-1 in the beginning of the year. So
I think I got plus 2,700 or something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I felt like that was a little low when I got it.
Yeah,
so that's a good number.
I don't know. Geez, this is tough. I mean, I don't think Florida is ready. I could see Tampa doing it all over again, but then again, I mean, we were talking about this. We were just up in Milwaukee visiting our other host who couldn't make it tonight, but we were saying law of averages, Toronto is gonna have to win a series at some point.
Yeah, the Leafs scare me a little bit right now. I'm not
saying cup, but they're gonna have to win a series at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I love the Toronto team. I really, because they've been so good to me this year, but Toronto, the last 10 days, I don't know, the last 5 games, I know you can't just base it on these last few games, but now their goalie situation,
right?
I don't know.
I was riding Carolina all year, but now the two starting goalies are hurt.
They're hurt, and then Carolina has trouble scoring though. They are
a very beatable team.
They're beatable. That's why even Boston, I don't think Boston's a cup contender, but if they open with Carolina, especially 2 hurt goalies, Carolina just has trouble. They'll have 55 shots and 2 goals. Yeah. They have trouble finishing. So. But they're built like a playoff team. They've got, good goal. They had good goalies and they play good defense and score just enough. But so we'll see.
Yeah. My final thoughts in the playoffs to wrap it up. Yep. I mean, everybody's got Colorado, Florida, blah, blah.
Yep.
A dark horse that I think nobody's talking about, and they've got a red hot goalie, the Edmonton Oilers. Don't sleep on them.
No, I mean, I would say they're probably 1 defenseman short, but
not going to win the cup.
Those 3 guys, I mean, that first line first and second line is absolutely ridiculous. I got this guy. they're all looking at me. So it's time to wrap it up because
there you go.
It's bedtime now.
I think that might be the first kid appearance on Empty Better. So
yeah, congrats.
Yeah.
Well, hey man, we appreciate the time for real.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Anytime you guys need something, hit me up. And we'll see if we can make it happen.
Will do. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. We want to thank Elio for coming on the show and chatting with us. Such an entertaining and energetic guy to talk hockey with. So you can see why he's amassed the Twitter presence that he does have. And that's definitely one of my favorite interviews we've had on the show so far.
Yeah, big thanks to him. I was bummed I had to miss that one, but just means we'll have to get him on again sometime soon. So
absolutely. Him and Turk are 2 of the most entertaining guys in the game. So we definitely appreciate Elio coming on. Just contagious energy, I would say, is the best way to put it. Can't help but smile when he talks. So want to thank him again for coming on. But let's cut the pitter patter and get right to it. Let's start our round 1 Stanley Cup previews. We're going to start in the Eastern Conference. Mac, you got something?
Well, I was just going to say we are going to jump right into that. But before we do, just one more thing to remind you guys of. Want to remind you that this season, all of our picks are powered by SharpRank. SharpRank created the first ever cross-sports rating system, ranking bettors from any sport on one leaderboard that anyone can dominate, even you. SharpRank is backed by some of the biggest names in the sports gambling world, such as BetMGM, Betway, and Sports Illustrated. Download the free app for iPhone and Android today. Without further ado, let's jump in. I'm pumped. Let's do it, guys.
I got a little too giddy there. Sorry. Apologies to Brendan and Chris. Thank you. We appreciate it.
It's the playoffs. Come on. What are we supposed to do?
It's the playoffs. All the regular bets we'll be doing in this postseason will be published on SharpRank. You can't do props on there yet. I don't know if that's going to be something they do in the future, but the props will also be published on Twitter. I got a couple of those out today for all you guys. So, yeah, let's get into it. We are going to start with the Boston Bruins versus the Carolina Hurricanes. The Bruins come in at minus 105 to win the series, and the Hurricanes come in at minus 115 to win the series. I would say the biggest storyline of this series is that Freddie Anderson will not start game one for the Hurricanes. Antti Raanta will be in net. This season series, Carolina went 3-0 against Boston, and they had their number big time in all three matchups. They outscored the Bruins 16-1 in those three matchups combined. Fun fact, both teams rank top 5 in shots per game, and both teams rank top 10 in shots allowed per game in a good way, meaning they don't let up a lot of shots. So this is a very evenly matched series, as you can tell by the odds that Vegas gave us. In terms of the special teams matchup, Boston's penalty kill ranks number 9, while Carolina's power play ranks number 13 in the league. And then the Bruins power play ranks number 15, while Carolina's penalty kill is number 1 in the NHL. What do you guys think about this series?
I just feel like whenever these two teams play each other in the playoffs, it's always a bizarre, like 7-game series with like a weird overtime goal. I could not be further from that this time. I think the Bruins get this one done easy with the lack of goaltending coming from Carolina. And I'm not sold on Carolina's ability to score 5-on-5.
I'll say, I feel like this is the matchup that, obviously I've been looking at Twitter the last couple of days, seeing what other people are picking for their playoff predictions. And I feel like this is the one where the most amount of people have disagreed with me. I've seen a ton of people picking Carolina. This one was not hard for me at all. I will say that one stat about Carolina really having Boston's number this year is a little bit made me think about it a little bit, but I don't know. I think especially with Anderson out, there's something about the Bruins this year. They've been up and down a lot throughout the year, but I think they're hot right now at the right time. I think they get this done in 5 or 6 games. I think Carolina is kind of frauds, if I'm going to be real about it.
It's an interesting take by both of you. I was doing the same thing. There's a lot more people, in my opinion, that are taking the Bruins than I originally thought. Nick, I think you had Bruins in 5 on Twitter. Mac, I think you had Bruins in 6.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
So I am taking the Hurricanes in this one. I think they are the better team and deeper. I don't think the Freddie Anderson injury is as detrimental as people make it out to be. And the reason I say that is because, in my opinion, I think Carolina has probably the best defensive core in the NHL. And I think that's going to stand out here. I could be totally wrong because, to be honest with you, the Bruins are a lot hotter coming into this than Carolina is. So I'll give you guys that. But I think Carolina, it's something about Brind'Amour. I just feel like something with his teams, it's hard to go against him. So I think I had Carolina in 6 on Twitter.
There's also something to me about I don't know. I've liked that tandem in Boston too, a lot of Ullmark and Swayman. I think that they've got something good going. They have great chemistry. The guys get along really well, which is always good for a goaltending duo when there's really no jealousy or anything like that going on. So yeah, I don't know. Bruins just stuck out to me. I also, for some reason, I would love to be wrong about this, but I see the Bruins going deep this year.
Same here. And I think, Harry, you made a great point. Boston's the hotter team right now. The other thing about Boston is their superstars are consistently their best players, where that's not the case in Carolina.
Yeah.
You've guys
fair.
Seth Jarvis, who are just playing out of their mind this year, that are helping that team score. Mm-hmm. So, it's not necessarily always Aho and Teravainen and Svechnikov, whereas for the Bruins, it's consistently Bergeron, Marchand, Pasta.
You've also got a guy like Trocheck who had unbelievable numbers last year, and then this year kind of fell off from that high. So I agree. There's a lot of guys you don't really know what you're going to get in Carolina.
It's all fair points. And I can't make my mind up on this one. I will say, spoiler alert, if you entered our NHL bracket challenge, I took the Canes to go deep. I don't think that Freddie Anderson injury is going to be too big. I actually have the Canes going all the way to the final. I had them at the start of the year. I know they've slowed down a little bit, but I just feel like that defense somehow comes in handy. And I will also say, I published this on Twitter. This is the one series out of all the first round series where I put a wager on it with my own money. So I'm confident in Carolina. I could eat shit. I didn't fall for the Oilers trap this year. We'll get into that later. Our boy Elio did. He just published it. But yeah, that's the Bruins versus Canes for round one.
One other thing I'll say about it real quick, this is what you call a classic meteor series, where at least for me, where
Yep.
it's like I hate both teams so much that if there's just some way a meteor could like hit the stadium and like neither team could advance, like that's the perfect situation. Feel the same way about the one we're about to talk about too.
Yeah,
Oh,
I would say
thank
more
you.
so.
So our next series that we have is the Pittsburgh Penguins versus the New York Rangers. The Rangers won the season series 3-1. The Rangers had the Penguins number all season. Shesterkin put video game numbers up against the Pens. I think the Penguins only scored like 3 goals total in the 4 matchups combined. So that's obviously a glaring stat. Same thing as the previous series we just talked about. Pittsburgh will not have their starting goaltender, Tristan Jarry, available for game 1. Casey DeSmith will be starting. We don't know when Jarry will be back. No timetable. The good news for Pittsburgh is DeSmith had a decent month of April. I don't think the drop-off is as big as people think. In terms of the special teams matchup, the Rangers power play is definitely one of the hottest in the league, coming in at number 4 in the NHL versus the Penguins penalty kill, which is number 3 in the NHL. If you want my opinion as the Penguins guy here, I think that's going to be the key matchup that is going to determine how long the series goes. And then on the flip side, the Rangers penalty kill is ranked number 7 and the Penguins power play an abysmal number 19 in the NHL. The Rangers, for as much, praise as they've gotten as of late, they had the 21st ranked offense in the NHL. And I was on Rick Rowley's podcast last night talking about this. The Rangers power play covers up a lot of flaws in the 5-on-5 game. I still think they're the better team. And then finally, I think this is a huge stat. Pittsburgh, if you take the average roster height and weight, is by far, and I'm not exaggerating, they are by far the smallest team in the playoffs, whereas New York is the 3rd largest. What do you guys think about this?
I really strongly dislike both of these hockey teams. I just want to make that clear for like the upteenth time this season. But outside of that, this is another one where it's just, and I feel like we're about to say this like 8 times. This is a coin flip. Like this is a genuine coin flip, in my opinion. I think at the end of the day, though, we're going to see the Rangers move on, maybe in 7, maybe in 6. I went with 7, and I just put that down to it's going to be too much.
I think I went with the Rangers in 6. However, I will actually be rooting for the Penguins in this matchup, just in the interest of if the Caps could somehow advance past Florida. And obviously, I think for this to matter, they would have to get all the way to the conference final. But as long as my team is still in it, usually the way I root for teams is like, who would I rather play at some point? And I would love to play the Penguins in the playoffs. I don't want any part of the Rangers. Also, as much as I hate the Penguins, there's something about the Rangers, especially this season, that they're so entitled, they're like, like they feel like they're going to the cup final. I just think it'd be really funny to see them lose in the first round. But I think you did a good job breaking it down, Harry. The size is going to be a big factor in this one. The Rangers are a physical team. They like to finish their checks a lot, especially in the playoffs, like every team does. 5-on-5 is where this series is going to be won or lost for the Rangers. Their 5-on-5 is super weak. If the Penguins can stay out of the box a decent amount, they actually have a decent chance, I think.
Harry, this is going to affect you in like multiple arenas of your life, because obviously it's your favorite hockey team, and then you had to deal with Mark all weekend. So what was that experience like? That's
not a good experience. It's a bad one. He's the most annoying person on planet Earth. Guys, there's a lot riding.
I hate him. I want him to die.
If the Penguins lose this series, I'm not going to hear the end of it for a long, long time. Here's what I'll say. So I mentioned I was on the Beauty Sauce podcast yesterday with Rick. That'll be coming out later this week. I'll tweet out when that goes. I was talking to Rick. I was like, I don't think we have it. Like, the storyline is in our favor because it's like the last dance. Like the big 3 probably aren't going to be together after this. We couldn't beat Shesterkin all year. He gives us the wave goodbye in the final matchup. You pin it on the bulletin board. You get the boys ready. Like all that Penguins favor. But the Rangers are they're bigger, 1. They're faster, which, if you're not bigger, you'd probably want to be faster. We're not. And they're hot, right? But I will say, I originally in my brain was like, Rangers in 6. Rick had the Pens, and Rick talked some sense into me, and Rick made me change my pick. And I am officially declaring I am taking the Penguins in 7.
Wow.
I think we win in 7. I think we upset them in MSG.
I don't hate
I would
that
love
at all.
to see that. I'm not gonna lie.
And I'd solely put that down to depth scoring.
True.
It's
Penguins
depth
have
scoring.
a lot of depth scoring.
The thing is like how many times can we get bounced in the first round, like X amount of years in a row? Like, I just feel like that
is a dangerous game to start playing with yourself, my friend.
But that's what I've been thinking with the Caps too.
Yeah.
Bro, I'm used to dangerous games in round 1. Look at my bank account from last year. All right?
Oh God.
And you do like this whole shit, right? And just, I think the boys realize, dude, this is going to get blown up if we don't do something. I think that's going to play a factor. I think it's a toss-up. I think I forgot to read the odds in Vegas. Both teams are -110. I think that shifted a little bit since I did that. I think the Rangers like -115, 120 now, but
yeah.
I'm taking Pens in 7.
I think another big part of this is like, can the Penguins score first in a lot of these games? Because the Rangers are the kind of team that's going to beat you like 2-0 and like score like the first 2 goals in like the first period and then just freaking dump it in all game and let Igor do his thing. Like,
yep.
It's going to be important for the Penguins to A, stay out of the box, like I said, but B, like find a way to get on the board first, find a way to make the Rangers chase them. Because if you're trailing the Rangers for like the majority of this series, it's not going to work out.
No, it's not. And I also think this is a fun stat. So Rangers are hot, right? In their last 15 games of the regular season, 5 of those games were against playoff teams. And 3 of those 5 games were against the Penguins. The other 2 were the Canes and the Caps. So if you strength of schedule, maybe, false narrative here. I know I'm being a little bit of a homer. The Rangers are the better team. And if I was betting money, I'd probably take the Rags, especially for the value. But my heart, I can't bet against my heart. I got to go Pens in 7.
This is just one of those series. And I feel like I said, we're just going to say this over and over again. No one knows anything. Like anything could happen with this one. I'm so excited. It's one of the ones I'm most excited to watch.
It'll be a fun
to be honest.
one to watch for sure.
Yeah, sure. Maybe for you guys.
Yeah, shut the fuck up.
Moving on. This one I would say is probably going to be the most watched series in the entire first round. We got the Toronto Maple Leafs coming in at -120 versus the Tampa Bay Lightning at +100. The season series, Tampa won it 2 wins, 1 loss, and then there was an overtime game, so we'll consider that a tie. So 2-1 and 1 for Tampa. I talked about it with Rick yesterday. All the spotlight's on Mitch Morner right now, right? You know what you're going to get with Matthews. He doesn't shy away in the playoffs. Mitch the bitch had a nickname for a reason last year in round 1. Him, Jack Campbell, obviously not having a big track record in the playoffs. He had a great month of April, but we'll see what comes here in the playoffs. I think it's worth mentioning Toronto had the 2nd ranked offense this year in terms of total goals for, behind Florida. Vasilevsky didn't have a great month of April, to be honest, even though the Lightning were winning a lot. They put up a ton of goals, but Vasi didn't exactly look great. The special teams matchup, Toronto has the #1 power play in the NHL. That's definitely going to play a factor here. Going against the number 11 ranked penalty kill in Tampa. And Tampa has the number 8 ranked power play going against Toronto's 8th ranked penalty kill. Tampa had the 4th most goals scored in the month of April, like I just mentioned. And Tampa is a much bigger team than Toronto. Toronto is the 2nd smallest team entering the playoffs. I mentioned earlier, Pittsburgh is actually the smallest. There's been some headlines saying, I think it was Sheldon Keefe said, we expect this series to be borderline violent. I think Maroon and Perry and Hedman and Killorn are going to beat the shit out of the Leafs. What do you guys think?
It's going to be on Clifford and Simmons to somehow, answer that bell. I mean, this one is just, this might be the series I'm most excited for, to be completely honest, because I think this is just going to be absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
I will say this. I think the Leafs are going to win this series, and I think they're going to do it in 6 games. The only thing that's scaring me is what you just said. They have the #1 power play in the NHL. And as a Caps fan, I've seen this tens of times when you go into the playoffs with the number one power play, and then because it's the playoffs, it gets ice cold and it gets shut down, and then your offense
there's
just,
less penalties too in general.
Exactly.
The refs call way less.
Your offense just like becomes anemic and shuts down, and you're only getting like 1 or 2 a game, and then you just get buried.
It could be scary. I will say 2 things that stand out to me here. One, it's kind of wild if you think about it, that the 2-time defending Stanley Cup champions are plus 100 in the first round, like against anyone. That's kind of insane in general. I don't care like who they're playing or what the stats are. Like that's sort of crazy. But the more you think about it, it sort of does make sense. And we all talk about, there's cup hangover, there's the shorter off season. It takes a lot out of you. It's really hard to do it twice. It's near impossible to do it 3 times, right? And all of that plays a big factor for sure. But I think the area that will see that factor in the most is actually with Vasilevsky. He's obviously one of the best goalies in the league over the last couple of years, but it's so hard for goalies to like maintain that over like several years in a row. You have to come back down to earth a little bit and think about it. He probably starts the highest percentage of games for his team, like than any other goalie, I would think. Like there's really a rare amount of games where the backup for Tampa Bay,
it has to be like a 70-30 split or something like that.
Literally, like if you look at the last like 3 seasons, like the one we just did, and then the 2 seasons that like they won the cup in, I would wager he has probably started the highest percentage of games over any other goalie in the NHL. And that takes a toll on you. Like, I don't care how good you are. It's exhausting to start that many games. And I feel like that's one area we could see, like they just don't have it in them to do another long playoff run right now. So that's kind of where my head's at. I do think the Leafs will finally break through and win a playoff series. How many years has it been again since they've won one? I forget the exact number.
2004
was when they won a playoff series.
Before Ovi and Crosby were in the league. Yeah.
Wow.
They're due.
I think they're going to do it.
Yeah,
I do.
We've
think
talked
it'll be
about
6 or
this.
7, but I think they will.
I know Mac and I have like doubted them all year, but I like the fact that the 3 of us are in agreement on this one. I don't see it happening this year.
In my bracket, I actually have them playing the Bruins in the Eastern Conference Final.
Who, Leafs?
Yeah. I mean, it could very easily just be like it was in 2018 with the Caps. It's like once you get over that hurdle, you just have all the momentum behind you, and everyone else has the pressure on them now because they know that weight is off your back.
Conference final.
Kryptonite,
and then the Bruins beat them again, and it's another classic Leafs.
Another Game 7 meltdown.
That's like the one scenario where like Leafs fans would actually not be happy after this playoff run. Like imagine they win 2 rounds after not winning one in forever. Right. And then if you play Boston,
the Bruins and
if you play Boston, it's all dead. Like
that's what I have happening in the
The only good thing would be is that if they made it that far, the NHL would just give Austin Matthews the Conn Smythe anyways because he plays for the Leafs. He'd be like, "Oh, you made it to the conference final? There you go. Take it."
Yikes.
That'd be nuts.
That won't trigger anybody.
Yeah.
What's your final prediction? I got Leafs in 6.
Leafs in 7.
Leafs in 6.
Yeah, I would not blame you if you took Tampa for money. I've seen so many people saying they're taking Tampa. I'm shocked they're still plus 100. I don't know how that hasn't gone up.
I low-key think like Tampa will somehow end up 3-2, and all the Leafs fans will be losing their minds like, holy shit, we're done again. And then I think the Leafs will 4-7 and for once win a fucking Game 7 and advance.
I'm calling it now. There's going to be some wild overtime nonsense here. Like I'm talking like a 3 overtime, 2 overtime game that like, it goes off of like 2 sticks and they have to review it or something. I think
it'll be storybook. I think it'll be like Matthews or Marner or something like that gets like the series clinching goal, and it goes down in history as like one of the biggest Leafs moments ever until they lose to the Bruins in the conference final.
Hope you got a couple margaritas and you to predict that one.
Yeah.
All right. Now we're going to move on to the final Eastern Conference preview for your very own Washington Capitals, coming in at plus 280 to
Where's
win the
my
series.
Fucking inhaler when I need it? Like
versus the Florida Panthers, who come in at minus 350 to win the series. Couple notes before I toss it off to the 2 Caps fans here. Aaron Ekblad is expected to return to the lineup at some point during the series. Not confirmed yet, but we'll see. Florida has the number one offense in the league, and they are number one in shots on goal all year long and in the month of April. So they were hot all year and they were hot at the end. However, Washington has been stingy on defense in terms of shots allowed. They give up the 6th fewest shots in the NHL. So that'll be an interesting matchup in terms of advanced analytics. Big question for the Panthers. And I think this is the one question everybody has for them is how is Bobrovsky going to hold up? I think that everyone knows how potent their offense is, but they've given up quite a few goals this season as well. He's also had some struggles in his recent postseason appearances. In terms of the special teams matchup, if the Caps power play can wake up, I think they can actually drag this thing out longer than people expect. It's been a shit show all year long. They had the 23rd ranked power play in the NHL, but the Cats penalty kill is nothing sexy either. They came in at 16th ranked in the NHL. However, on the flip side, the Panthers have the number 5 ranked power play. As you could probably guess, they'd be top 5 against Washington's penalty kill, which ranks number 12. In my opinion, and I know everyone wants to hear what these two have to say because they're the Caps fans. I think if the Caps can play bully ball with the Panthers and draw some penalties, I think they can drag this thing to like 6 or 7. Everyone thinks Cats in 5 or 4. It's kind of a little ridiculous in my opinion. I think Tommy Wilson's going to have to eat his Wheaties in this series.
This, like, betting on the Caps in this series is probably best bang for your buck opening round matchup of this Stanley Cup playoffs this year.
It's true.
That being said, I fully expect the Florida Panthers to come in and win this series in 6 games. But yeah, you make some great points. I know that power play struggled all year. That's no secret. Key pieces were missing for, I would say, the entire first half of that year. So you can throw that into whatever argument in your brain. I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen with this one. It depends on who shows up and who shows up in net the first night. So
it's pretty funny that you play 82 games in the regular season. And part of that, especially for a team like the Capitals, is to try and figure out which one of your goalies is like the guy you can trust. And 82 games later, we have just as much of a like, I don't know, as we did like before the season started.
I feel exactly the same as I did in August. Like who is going to start in net? I don't know.
Yeah, that's definitely the scariest part, especially going against like the number 1 offense. What I will say, Harry mentioned it, Bobrovsky, you're talking to a guy that had this man on his fantasy team all year long and knows firsthand that this guy has actually had a dog shit year. Like he has gotten pulled from a lot of games this year. The Panthers score a lot, but they also let in a ton of goals. They've won like most of their games this year, like 7-5 or like 6-4 or whatever. And like, I just don't really think that's a super sustainable way to play in the playoffs, which is part of what's giving me a little bit of hope. It really just depends if one of the Caps goalies can just somehow like do his thing. For me, I would start Vanacek game 1.
Absolutely.
That's what I would like to see happen. I don't know if that is what's going to happen. Another factor here is Ovi obviously got hurt like last week. Seems like he's going to play. He was on the ice for like the first postseason practice in a normal red sweater with the rest of the guys. So sounds like he'll go. From what I've heard, he's probably not feeling 100% great, but it's the playoffs. So death taxes and playing less than 100%. What else do I have to say about this? Oh, if you're a superstitious guy like I am when it comes to your team and the playoffs, here's a little something that I kind of like. When the Caps won the Stanley Cup in 2018, in the first round, they played the Columbus Blue Jackets, and Bobrovsky was their goalie. At that time, we had never played the Columbus Blue Jackets in the playoffs before. This year, we're playing Florida Panthers, have never played them before. And guess who their goalie is? Sergei Bobrovsky. So, a little something, I don't know. Some of you will say that doesn't fucking matter. I say it kind of does. So
he did earn his credentials. You have to say Officer Sergei Bobrovsky, of course.
Of course. Yeah, I don't know. The other thing, Nick mentioned it a little bit, but that the power play stat, yeah, we're 23rd in the NHL or whatever, but we've been missing Oshie, Backstrom, Ov for all different parts of the season. Like
Wilson,
we've only had maybe probably less than 20 games with like our ideal power play unit out there. And the games we've had that out there, it's actually been pretty darn good.
And guess who's hot right now? Johnny Rocket.
Oh yeah, no, Johnny Rocket is very hot. He's going to be a big big factor in this series, I hope. He's been scoring goals. He's had hella assists lately. So hopefully, I mean, like we said, this really comes down to goaltending for the Caps. Like it won't be a series at all if we can't find a big save when we need one. But if we can, look out, because I fully expect our offense to be able to keep up with their offense. It's just going to matter. Like if we are letting in goals that we should not be letting in, the team's just going to get fucking down on ourselves and be like, well, this doesn't even fucking matter.
Yeah.
So.
It's going to get ugly fast if they don't button it down. And speaking of goaltending, there was some roster moves over the weekend. I don't know if anyone caught that, but Zach got called up for the playoffs. So
keep an eye
fucking
on
rights,
that.
boys.
Yeah, we'll see.
So final predictions. Mac, on Twitter, I believe you had Caps in 7. Do you have that in your bracket? I'm just curious.
I do.
Let's go. So Caps in 7. Bet with your heart. Do it. I don't care.
Exactly. Well, I've used this saying already like twice this episode, but if you've listened to this podcast for a while, you know that there's death, taxes, and me having way too much fucking faith in the Washington Capitals. So,
Nick, what do you got?
I have Florida in 6. I just going with my gut here. That being said, I don't know if there's a big upset in the first round. I really feel like it might be this one.
I was going to say, if there were to be one, I feel like it would be this one. I also have Panthers in 6. I think a great prop, if you're able to get this on your book, bet this series to go over 5.5 games.
Easily.
Well, I don't know about easily, but
no,
we'll
but
see.
like for value, like, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yes, I would say that's right there. So
last thing I'll say on this one is, Matt, going back to your point about the Bobrovsky comparison to 2018, the Caps were also constantly dogged in 2018. Everyone said they had no chance in winning that series or the cup or going deep
Very
that
true.
year. And everyone's saying the same thing this year. So
yep, which is when the Caps do the best, is when all the pressure is off, which is why I wanted to avoid the Rangers in round 1, because somebody said it best on Twitter, and this is the last thing I'll say, and then I promise we can move on. Somebody said best on Twitter that like if the Caps and Rangers had met in the first round, it would have been the number 1 most like media,
easily
most like watched series. ESPN would have eaten that shit up. Whereas if they were to meet the Panthers in the first round, which we are, it would likely be the least media coverage of like any series, which I think favors the Caps. I think we always do better when we are not in the spotlight, especially for round 1. And one final thought, just want to remind everyone that the Florida Panthers won the President's Trophy. So,
good point.
a little curse there, huh?
I mean, the Caps have won the President's Trophy and then got bounced in the first round more than like anybody else I can think of. So
probably
like we might be due to hand that out to somebody else this year.
Yeah.
Enough said.
Final thoughts mean nothing on this podcast, in case you haven't learned by now.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Western Conference, that wraps up the Eastern Conference predictions. We got our first series on tap. The Edmonton Oilers coming in at -245 to win the series versus the LA Kings coming in at +205 to win the series. Edmonton won the season series 2-1. That last one counts as a tie since it went to overtime in the playoffs. That wouldn't count. We've got Dustin Brown announcing he will retire after the postseason. I do think that has swayed the bettors a tiny bit. Huge loss for the Kings. Drew Doughty will not be playing in this series. Their number 1 defenseman. An interesting stat that I found, and I'm curious to see how this will impact the series. Los Angeles ranked number 1 in allowing the least amount of shots in the NHL. We all know Edmonton is known for its deadly offense. I'm really interested to see how that matchup works. Mike Smith was ranked the number 1 goalie in the month of April in GSAA at 15.32. And I don't know what that means, so I just found it on Twitter. And LA was ranked 24th in goals in the month of April. Little special teams matchup. This is the one that everybody's going to be looking for. The Edmonton power play ranks 3rd in the NHL, and the LA penalty kill ranks 22nd in the NHL. If the Kings end up taking penalties, this is stating the obvious, they don't stand a fucking chance.
And I think we will see that. I think we're going to see, like, if we're going to see like a not favored team taking the most penalties in the first round, well, aside from the Caps, because now that I've said it, it's just going to happen. It'll be the Kings. Definitely not as fast as the Oilers. Maybe that, they've got guys like Kopitar and Brown that can shut it down if they need to, but, they're going to have to go up against 2 out of the 3 best players in the NHL right now.
Yeah, it's a matchup.
Yeah.
I do think it's worth noting Darnell Nurse has been maintenancing the past like week or two. He is expected to play game 1, but they announced it as a game time decision.
Can I eat?
You're really loving the underdog here. I think
Let
a
me
little
eat.
too much.
I'm ready to eat. Okay,
You're-
so
boy.
let's get down to business here. May or may not have something to do with the fact that I've been in LA for the last like week. Went out to a bar on Friday night, hung out with a lot of my sister's friends, 2 of whom are season ticket holders for the LA Kings. Had long
Damn.
chats with them, and these guys fucking sold me so hard on why the Kings are not only going to win this series, but like how they could low key like make a run. When you first sent the bracket challenge thing, like on Friday or something like that, I filled it out just like very like, okay, gut feeling like this series bang. This
Just like
series
from the
bang.
hip.
I ended up having the Kings winning the fucking Stanley Cup. And then I had to be like, okay, wait a minute. Let's like
What the
reel it in
hell?
a little bit. But I do think there's a world where like they could go on an insane run here. I think the Dustin Brown thing plays in a lot. I also think that Jonathan Quick is like on a revenge tour right now. He has had actually a pretty darn good year.
He
And
has.
I think he's just like ready to prove the haters wrong and be
I
like,
also don't
I'm not
hate their
old enough
tandem at all.
yet. Now, Cal Peterson has like had some moments this year too. I mean, anyone who's been listening to this podcast knows that I've been shitting on the Oilers all season long. I said for a while they weren't going to make the playoffs. I ate shit on that one. I'm going to say the Kings literally, I think they could get this thing done in like 5 or 6 games. The Oilers, I've never believed in them. I still don't. I think that this will be another frustrating series for them. I think that they're going to have to take a serious look at their roster this summer. I will say the one thing making me a little scared to be this bold is Mike Smith. All year long, I've said that the Oilers won't do shit because their goalies fucking suck. Koskinen, I still think he's maybe the worst goalie in the entire playoffs. Mike Smith, though, has changed my mind. He's actually been very good in the month of April, as you mentioned. He's also sort of on a revenge tour like Quick, being like, I'm not washed up yet. I still got some game in me. He has an offensive upside, as we mentioned before. It's really fun to watch him play. I don't know. I definitely could be wrong, but I got to go big or go home here and just lean into my my gut here and say the Kings are going to get this done.
I respect the shit out of that. That's a big underdog pick.
This is also the only series that I have put real money on. I think it's a really good bang for your buck. Like
It is.
value-wise, it's totally possible that they could win this series. And the fact that they're plus 205, I think is some disrespect.
I think all that's fair. Everyone knows the famous story. Last year, I put like an irresponsible amount of cash that probably could have paid for like half a week in Mexico on the Oilers, and I lost it in round 1. So not doing that this year. Our boy Elio did tweet out he put 3 units on the Oilers to win the series. I warned him it's a trap. I think I'm pretty confident the Oilers will win this. And I would be less confident if Doughty wasn't hurt, but I just feel like that's a guy where you can't replace your number 1 defenseman, right? It's impossible. He eats the most minutes in the game. He goes against the best players. I think Edmonton's going to have their way. I want to say Edmonton in 5, but I'll go Edmonton in 6 because I do think the Kings have some depth that people sleep on. Name to watch, Blake Lizotte. I've talked about him all year long.
I said it, man.
Sneaky guy on LA. Keep your eye on him.
I will say this. I think the Kings get this one done in 7. I think if they push it that far, that they will overcome it. I think Quick will find like some way to time travel back to 2010 and just stand on his head. I also think that this Dustin Brown thing is going to have a bigger impact than a lot of people think. If he was like just going to like retire, he would have waited until the playoffs were over. He's like, no, I'm going to say this now to light a fire under everyone's ass in this locker room.
Yeah, I do like that.
To just make them sell out for everything and just go for it.
So final predictions. I have Oilers in 6. Mac, you have Kings in 5.
I think I have Kings in 6, but I seriously considered 5. Although I do like Nick's point that like if this goes 7, it favors the Kings so hard.
Absolutely,
the Oilers are going to start panicking at that mode. I could see like a game 7, like 2-0 Jonathan Quick shutout or something like that.
And Nick, what's your final prediction?
Kings in 7.
You have Kings. Oh yeah, you did have Kings in 7. I forgot. All right. Well, that wraps up that series. Let's move on to the next one. We got the Colorado Avalanche coming in at minus 640 to win the series. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Versus the Nashville Predators at plus 470. You don't need to know the season series. You don't need to know the power play stats or the penalty kill stats. All you need to know is this: UC Saros is out.
For the first two at least.
For the first two at least. And it sounds like it's the original diagnosis, I think, was like 4 to 6 weeks. So the odds of him coming back are pretty slim. I don't think Nashville has a flying fuck's chance to win the series without UC Saros.
Not now. I mean, they did a little bit before. I think if they had, similar to what I just said about the Kings, if they had pushed that longer than 5 games, it would just start to favor them. But here, I completely agree with you. Now that Saros is out for the first two, that it almost just automatically puts them into an 0-2 hole in my mind.
And this is a huge bummer too, because he had such a good season, and then like Nashville really seemed to rally around that. But for him to just not be able to play right now when it matters most is definitely a big dagger for them.
I do think one of the matchups that'll be really fun to watch. I would argue we've got the 2 best defensemen in the NHL going head to head, and Roman Josi and Cale Makar. That should be a treat to watch this series. Landeskog is expected to return from his knee injury this series. Both teams have pretty good power plays, but both teams also have very below average penalty kills. I would expect the power play goals to be ramped up this series. And it is worth noting, 2 of the 4 matchups this season went to overtime. So the Preds playing well.
I feel like Nate Mack is going to go on an absolute tear this postseason. Like he is
10 points in 5 games or something
you think
ridiculous
back to
like that.
His press conference, like his exit interview when they got bounced last year, and frustrated you could tell he is, and he's just like, I don't know what else we have to fucking do to like. You can tell that shit is like boiling inside of him, and he is ready to just do it. Like I have actually spewed some hate on the Avs this year too, saying that for whatever reason I don't think they're quite ready, and I sort of still believe that, but I'm more prepared to eat shit on that one than I am about any of my other hot takes around the league. I think that there's a high chance that the Avalanche just like steamroll through everybody this year and just finally get it done.
Yeah, it could sort of be like what we were saying about Tampa. We were like, can this team actually get it done? And then they go back to back.
Mm-hmm.
Could be. I got Avs in 6.
I think I have Avs at 5.
Yeah.
I have Avs in 5.
Yeah.
I mean, the Saros thing is what did it.
Everybody
seriously, if Saros was playing, I would have seriously considered picking them, and I definitely would have picked Avs in like 6 or 7 or something like that. But without Saros, I don't think this is really going to be a series.
Yeah, I think everybody that you listen to or read, they're going to have Avs. I mean, what are you going to do? Bet against them? You can't.
However, I do not recommend putting money on this. It's just not worth the.
No. Stay away.
Nope.
Yeah.
All right. The next series, and what I truly believe will probably be, in terms of just strictly gameplay, the most entertaining series in round 1. We've got the St. Louis Blues at plus 120 to win the series versus the Minnesota Wild at minus 140 to win the series. This is going to be the best series of the first round, in my opinion.
This could and maybe should be a conference final matchup.
But yeah, this is the biggest coin toss, in my opinion. I truly believe that. Even though the Vegas odds say like Pittsburgh, New York is the most contested, I believe this is probably the closest. St. Louis wins the special teams matchup. They had the 2nd best power play in the league, and Minnesota had the 25th ranked penalty kill. That's going to be a huge matchup to watch. St. Louis is the heaviest team in the NHL that's in the playoffs. In terms of average height and weight of the roster, they were by far the biggest. It's not even close. They are playing bully ball, and there's nothing you're going to do about it. So Minnesota is going to have to stand up to some pretty big fellas this series. The goaltending matchup, in my opinion, is going to determine who wins. I think they just announced Husso and Fleury are the starters for game 1. I think that's probably what I would have predicted, especially the Husso part.
Are the Wild really not starting Cam Talbot game 1?
It's expected to be Fleury. I just read.
I think that's a mistake, in my opinion.
Someone checked Puck Empire to double check me, but I'm pretty positive that's what they just said.
Mac, I'm inclined to agree with you a little bit. I mean, the Husso thing, I know I saw people online saying that they should have, gone with Binnington because he's got the experience. I'm like, yeah, but he's also experienced being terrible all year.
Yep. No, Husso makes sense. He's the one who's gotten this team to where they are this year. But the Fleury thing, to me, as sick as it was that the Wild grabbed him at the deadline, they really didn't need to. Like Cam Talbot has had an unbelievable year for them, and I think it's a little bit of a crime to not let him at least start this series. I mean, sure, you got Fleury on the bench if anything goes wrong, but I don't know. I think Cam Talbot is more than capable of like shutting the Blues out in a game or two this series if they let him take the crease.
He's playing well enough. And Harry, you're right. Yeah, they released it a little bit earlier today, just about a couple hours ago. It's Fleury, Husso, and Ronta are all the projected game one starters for their respected teams. So it'll be interesting to see what happens if maybe Minnie drops the first one or something. I mean, you never know.
Yeah, I was gonna say if they lose, because here's the problem.
It'll be a short leash. Yeah.
Yeah, like Max said, Cam Talbot has played great, but the problem is so is Fleury since he got traded. I mean, I think they both had like about the same record and goalie stats. So it should be interesting to see what happens if Minnie drops number one. Here's a stat that's extremely concerning for me as someone who is picking, not betting, but picking the Wild to win. The St. Louis Blues own them in the last 3 seasons. I mean, own them. St. Louis is 12-1-1 in their past 14 meetings between these two clubs. And since Craig Berube became the head coach of the St. Louis Blues, they are 13-1-2 all time against Minnesota. Minnesota has 16 overtime and shootout wins this season. I believe off memory that was the most in the NHL. So just a little bit of an interesting stat there. There is no 3-on-3 or shootout in the playoffs. I had Minnie going deep. And then I saw this stat, and that's one that shook me a little bit because that's not just this season. That's like historic. They've got your number. I'm still taking Minnie to win in 7, but I'm a little hesitant. I'm not going to lie.
I think there's a high possibility we see all 4 goaltenders play at some point in this series. I will also say there's a very, very, very high chance the series goes 6 or 7. If that's a prop on your book, I'd consider taking like just the series to go 6 or the series to go 7 or something like that. What I will say is there's something about this Blues team. Part of it, I think, is what you were saying about how big and heavy. That's just they are a son of a bitch to play against, no matter who you are. And especially in the playoffs, everybody's finishing their checks way more. They're going to make you pay for sure, and that's going to wear a team down over a 6 or 7 game series. I can't fully explain why, but I have the St. Louis Blues going like all the way to the Stanley Cup final this year. I think that there's just something about this team. They're clicking. Tarasenko, obviously, there was rumors about how he wanted out of St. Louis early in the season. Those rumors are gone now. He has said he firmly feels fine staying in St. Louis at this point. I think they